Welcome, my name is Karen Field Bullock, and this is lesson number 7 in my course, A Spiritual Path to True Love. This lesson is part of the course's first segment called Love and Love's Opposites. Today, I want to talk about love's complementary opposites. Complementary opposites are the positive but opposing characteristics of people who are in love with each other. Having complementary opposites makes two people feel they fit well together and, in some sense, complete each other. Complementary opposites are the kind of opposites that attract. They're like yin and yang, represented in this symbol of two opposite shapes that wrap around each other or nestle within a perfect circle, the circle representing wholeness. The yin-yang symbol depicts a balance of the bright and the dark, the outward side and the hidden side of human nature, the aggressive and the receptive, the masculine and the feminine, each side with a seed of the other at its core. The basic idea for a love relationship is that some of your strengths and weaknesses reflect a mirror image of some of your partner's weaknesses and strengths. Maybe you love to talk about certain things that your partner enjoys listening to, and to listen to things that your partner loves to talk about. You may love to lead in certain areas of life where your partner wants to follow, and to follow in other areas of life where your partner can better lead you. You may be a planner who attracts a doer, or a doer who attracts a planner. At best, when people are attracted to their complementary opposites, they're attracted to hidden parts of themselves. But consciously, they're attracted because they like being together, they get along. No couple has a perfect fit in every way, but the more complementary opposite characteristics you have with your partner, the easier it is for you to cooperate more than to compete, to admire and appreciate each other's strengths, and to enjoy time spent together because you both feel admired and appreciated. For some couples, the complementary opposites they start out with gradually lead each person to grow as the partners naturally imitate one another's strengths. I once met a newly widowed woman who had inherited her husband's company when he died. She had spent so many years listening to him talk about his work, and she had enough latent leadership talent within her that she felt confident in taking over the leadership of the company. Sometimes a husband whose wife previously took charge of raising the children has to suddenly assume the nurturing mother role when his wife divorces or deserts him, becomes incapacitated, or dies. He then has to become a little more like his wife used to be. More commonly, many couples gradually learn from each other's various ways of talking and ways of thinking, just because they've talked every day for years and sometimes influenced each other. Overall, if partners choose to keep growing and learning as adults, they each tend to learn some things from their other half that help them become a little more well-rounded. In that way, their complementary opposites create a slow-moving, growth-oriented dynamic opposition, the kind I talked about last time in lesson number 6. However, it's important to understand what this growth process is and what it isn't. The goal with complementary opposites isn't to try to become just like your partner. You can only grow into becoming more of you, not into being your partner or anyone else. Within your relationship, your complementary opposite characteristics with your partner are mostly there to be appreciated and enjoyed first of all. But if you think about the yin-yang symbol again, you already have some potentialities within you that reflect your partner's strengths and that your partner can bring out in you, and vice versa. For example, the lady I met who inherited her husband's company didn't succeed as the new CEO by becoming a copy of her husband. She already had the seeds of strong leadership talent deep within herself before she ever met him. Her marriage with her husband activated those seeds of leadership potential, and By stepping in to run the company after his death, she realized more of her own authentic self. The differences between you and your partner that help you fit well together are usually a wonderful thing, and if you tried to become strong in all the areas where your partner is strong, just to learn things, you'd be giving up your sense of self while turning your relationship into a competition. Here's a story from my experience. My husband, Jim, is a computer programmer. He's good at his job, and when he's busy programming, usually time flies for him. I too enjoy thinking during a good portion of my day, but there will never ever be a day when I decide to think about how to program a computer. That seed of potentiality just doesn't exist within my being by any stretch of the imagination. I appreciate his skills, and yet I don't want to emulate them in that way. On the other hand, Jim is also deeply interested in history. History is a subject I had trouble with from 6th grade on, since my partial amnesia left me unable to remember my own personal history. It's kind of like I lacked depth perception, only with time instead of space. For some years, I couldn't conceptualize the past, even though I understood the concept in theory. So on one of our early dates, I told Jim about this experience that I had had. And because of his great love for history, he felt extremely sorry for me. He proceeded to talk to me for a long time, telling me as quickly as he could about the history of the whole world. Finally, I had to interrupt him because I couldn't possibly retain it all. Later, he told me that just in case we never had another date, he wanted to at least help me understand world history. I thought that was hilarious from a comedic perspective, but at the same time, his enthusiasm for history also tapped my latent potential for developing my own unique historical perspective, something I became excited about through his influence. It's noteworthy, though, that not all couples feel inspired by each other to grow. There are plenty of couples who carve out their different roles and different interests based on their strengths and then stick with them, unwilling to emulate each other. For example, if one person is highly talkative and attracts a partner who is an interested listener, then over the years, the talker might not choose to learn to listen. In that case, the listening partner could gradually shift from feeling enchanted by all the talker's stories and clever expressions to feeling resentful and left out. For that matter, the talker might become bored and annoyed with the listening partner for being too passive and not more engaged in the conversations. The very complementary qualities that they originally found attractive in each other become a source of discontent because neither one is growing. This static treatment of a couple's complementary opposites gradually reduces both partners' feelings of passion in the relationship. Now, returning again to the Yin Yang Model. If you imagine yourself to be one side of this symbol, either one, the main issue for you to decide is not how to explain it intellectually, according to Freud or Jung or the Tao, but whether you believe the dot resting within you, that seed of your complementary opposite, is good or bad, friend or foe. Is that opposite energy deep within you, polluting you and making you impure, do you think? Do you fear that it's a tangle of selfish impulses like Freud's subconscious id? Do you imagine it's the dark side of your personality, the part you block out of your awareness because you'd be horrified by it? Or do you think it represents your latent positive potential just waiting for the right person to come along and bring it out in you? Regardless of what you think or guess that it is, if you take a spiritual approach to love, it's your job to learn to love yourself deeply through and through. So no matter what's buried within you, even if it's opposite all that you believe in. Following any spiritual path of love means being open to the mystery of your being. You need to discover, accept, and allow space for all that you really are, warts and all, contradictions and all, so you can gradually find the goodness in it, or the greater goodness behind whatever you consider bad. Only then can you gradually integrate your new self-awareness and grow into a higher expression of your authentic self. Throughout the last several centuries, women in the West, and more recently worldwide, have struggled to gain equality. Women have sought access to equal education, voting rights, the right to own property, the right to drive cars, the right to work outside the home, equal rights in the workplace, equal health care, the right to fight in the military, and more. In response, many men have learned to listen and respect women's perspectives, to become more aware and respectful of emotions, to shift their idea of what it means to be a real man, to develop the courage to assume social or family roles that their forefathers would have ridiculed, and to adjust their leadership style from being bossy and dictatorial to being more understanding, considerate, and respectful towards women. Shifting ideas about gender roles have slowly transformed whole societies away from the rigid traditional roles and toward becoming more complete human beings. Yet, many couples and cultures feel more grounded and secure in a static arrangement, rejecting growth and change in favor of the stability of their marriage or their culture. In marriage, such partners believe that to be true to each other, partners must always remain the same. They feel that as long as they don't change, their love will never die. Then, if one partner does change, the other partner can blame them for ruining their marriage. But blame is not their goal. The goal for them is to preserve their love, as they promised to do in their wedding vows. Yet in reality, life demands change from all of us. And when people resist change, they become less authentic, less vital, and more fear-based. In extreme cases, some couples believe in following traditional roles very strictly, where the woman's role is to be the homemaker, preferably barefoot, pregnant, and subservient. And the man's role is to be the breadwinner, man of the world, and king of the castle. Any suggestion of being slightly masculine for the woman or slightly feminine for the man would seem bad to them, especially because it could make them vulnerable to social ridicule. For other people, the main motivation for rejecting the complementary opposite energy at their own core isn't a fear of ridicule or change. Rather, it's a simple case of hatred and contempt. Think of the old expression, "I'd rather be a hammer than a nail." For people with such a simplistic view of human nature, they have no intention of being like a nail and getting pounded all day. The very idea of it would seem ridiculous and contemptuous. They may view themselves as the hammer because they think they're smarter, stronger, or richer, and they view their nail partner as dumber, weaker, or poorer. If they even perceive any strength at all in their partner, they shrug it off in comparison with their own perceived greatness. People who look down on their partner with contempt have little desire to acknowledge the seeds of what they consider inferiority within themselves. If you think you're better than your partner and your partner is inferior, the way the old-fashioned traditional man thought about women, it's likely because your pride in your own strengths seems to prove that you're superior. In that case, you'll try not to grow toward your partner's complementary traits, and you'll probably hate the corresponding potential for what you consider weakness within you. But until you learn to perceive goodness in qualities beyond your own strengths, you are not ready for true love. Historically, men's fear of being judged effeminate, along with men's contempt for weakness, have been important factors in how they defined masculinity. This helps to explain why this centuries-long movement towards women's rights and, more broadly, gender equality for all has been such a slow-moving, dynamic opposition. On a positive note, though, in today's environment of increasing mass communication worldwide, the gender equality movement seems to be quickening across the globe. So that's my lesson on complementary opposites within love relationships. They're the differences that attract us to each other and, at best, inspire us to realize more of our true potential. As you work to integrate this material into your own experience, I've listed a few questions below for your consideration. So I hope you'll join me again next time when I talk about a group of love's opposites having to do with control issues. These control opposites include passion versus reason and love versus will. For now, goodbye.